Three-time Foot Locker finalist when he was in high school. Connor Mantz is joining us. Since that time, he's been just tearing up everything. Two-time NCAA champion in cross country. He's run every distance now. Half marathon at just 1 hour 55 seconds. Chicago Marathon 2:08:16. So Connor, you've gone everything from a miler all the way up to the marathon. Any decisions on where you want to go from here?
No decisions as of right now. Just trying to enjoy it. I think sometimes, I don't know, I get a little too antsy, and I decide to, I decide to run every race, and then I end up just feeling burnt out at the end of a season. So right now, we're just kind of taking a step back.
Well, Connor, we watch you race, and you have been so good at every level, high school, college, and now as a pro, in your first pro race, you go ahead and win the whole thing. It's so much fun to watch you, but you were talking a little bit about that. You do need to take breaks, and is that just because you go all in and you're pretty intense when you are, dialed in and ready to race?
Yeah, I think it's just, maybe I'm a little too intense when it comes to racing. I like to be, like you said, all in. And I realized, coming off this past marathon in Chicago, that I felt, I was like, okay, what's next? What's the next thing? And the marathon, I didn't realize how long it took to recover from that distance. I was like, okay, the shoes are now better than ever. I'm sure I could run another marathon pretty soon. And my training was, so very up and down. And I realized not only did I need, a physical break, I needed a mental break from, the grind, essentially. And I think in college, I didn't need that as much, but I probably needed it. I don't know. It was a little risky.
Hey, we got a lot of high school kids that are watching, and we're talking actually. So here we are getting close to the national championship, and you're one of the few boys that made it there 3 times. So you were in 3 great races. Cheserek, King Ches won once, and then Grant won twice. So you're in some big races there, and a lot of boys don't get that experience. It's always 35, 36 senior boys, and maybe a junior or two, and very seldom a sophomore. So a lot of boys are looking for help. So. What's the advice? So you're going in when you were a sophomore, then junior, senior. Anything you can share with a young qualifier?
Yeah, absolutely. So while I was going there, one of my heroes of the pro running world at the time sat by me on the bus. Name's Meb Keflezighi. Not sure if you guys have heard of him. 4-time Olympian, I'm pretty sure. But, he's one of the, I think one of the best people who've ever been in the sport, especially on the American side. And I could go off about how great he is. But I'll just try to be brief about that. Essentially, though, he sat by me on the bus heading to the first national championship. And I was pretty nervous. I was a sophomore. I was either the youngest or second youngest guy in the field because John Dressel, who also made it with me every year, was there. And as I sat, Meb Keflezighi sat by me, he was asking me about myself, and I had said I was a sophomore, and he's like, don't put this huge expectation on yourself. Go out there and have fun. And make sure, you just enjoy being here. And at first I was like, what do you mean? I want to go compete, but now as an older athlete, I understand what he meant. And I did take his advice. I had a lot of fun. I went out pretty conservative in the race, and for how good I was, probably as an athlete-wise, that might have been my best performance, but I really gave it everything I had and had my best race of the year, just because I was having fun. And so for any younger athlete out there, go out and just enjoy the race. You've made it. That's the big thing. But go out there and show this is what I love to do. There's nothing. I don't know, when you're on that start line, tell yourself, if you don't believe it, you should tell yourself it. But say there is no other place I'd rather be.
I love that. I look at your career. And I think that a lot of kids now are thinking about being a professional runner. I mean, when I was in high school, I didn't necessarily think about that. I was thinking about college, and then I got through college, and then, that's when I really started to think about it. But becoming a professional athlete is becoming more real for these younger athletes. Were you somebody that thought about that, or were you kind of one day at a time type athlete?
I was definitely thinking about it. I think, going to, Foot Locker Nationals at the time, or, the Nike Regionals meets, and seeing these professional athletes that were there really opened up my eyes of, that was a possibility. I don't think I understood what it took at the time, and it's probably a good thing I didn't understand, how hard and how few people actually get to go and be professional athletes. But when I was young, at Foot Locker Nationals, I was like, I want to go and I want to run professionally. And fortunately, my college career went very well, and I was able to, and now I'm able to do that professionally.
That's, I want to throw a little compliment at you here, is that I think there's a lot of kids that are home telling Connor Mantz stories after last year. You're telling Meb sat with me. Those kids, they just gravitated towards you last year. And every time a banquet was over, or a luncheon, or we were jogging, there were kids around you, and you spent time with everybody. And I think it's one of the beauties of our sport. I mean, you're as good as it gets. You're going to be an Olympian. There's just no doubt about it. And you're at that level that they want to be, just like Meb was to you. And you were wonderful with them, and I'm sure they appreciated it. We were all impressed with you.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed being there. I realized I was the youngest coach, and I guess it probably was because I had 18-year-old college teammates, and I was just coming off of that. So I felt pretty much like I fit in better with the younger kids, but it was fun to chat with them and be there.
Hey, I have a quick question. I've been dying to ask you. I watched the Manchester Road Race, and I was thinking back to the COVID Cross Country Championship, the 2020. You don't have blazing speed. You're not a sprinter. No one's going to mistake you for Usain Bolt. But man, you can kick, and you can kick from far out. I mean, in that cross country championship, I thought you were kicking from like 800 in, and it looks like you're sprinting all out. Did you develop that? Is that a mental thing or a physical thing? I mean, and that Manchester Road, it was like somebody handed a handoff to you, and at 600 to go, and you're sprinting for 600 meters.
It's funny, because I've heard this before, and I think it's just it's a physical thing, maybe a little bit mental, but you just mentally physically when you change gears, sometimes you almost feel better. But also the mental aspect of, I don't know how long my kick's gonna last. I'm just gonna go for it, and sometimes you have to do that. And I guess in 2020 Nationals, that was probably, I don't know, maybe one of the worst paced races for the entire field ever, because we went out blazing fast. But also, yeah, this last one at Manchester, it was odd because I wasn't feeling, I don't know, I was like, oh crap, like I'm feeling really beat up because we're running, I don't know, we were probably averaging close to 4:30, and then we had to, over a hilly course, and then it was like, well, there's 5 guys here, like I'm just gonna go this last kick and stay as close to the front as I can, and like if I blow up, whatever, at least I gave myself a shot at the win. I don't know if that gave any good explanation.
Hey, have you ever kicked too early in a race? Have you ever gone and just, oh man, I just too early, and I still got 200 to go, and I'm just used up? I don't believe it. I think you just mentally can hang any time. But have you ever done it too early?
I definitely have. But that was more in high school days. I feel like more so in college and professional. If I'm falling back, it's not at the end of a race. It's usually, it's usually when I don't know. The best example is I know the 5K indoors I ran earlier this year when Grant Fisher and the pack he was in, I was at the tail end of the pack, and they started running like, I don't know, they ran like a 3:57 last mile, and I ran a 4:10 or something like that, and felt like I was just getting wrecked, and thought I was dying, but really it was my fastest mile of the race.
I love it. I love watching you race. I just get excited thinking about all that stuff. I'm like, anytime Connor kicks, you're like, what is happening? Something big is going to happen.
Oh, thanks, Gary.
Hey, I know it's only, we still got a couple of years out here, but what's the plan? Do you know yet? Are you going to be focused on the 10 or the marathon or the 5? What's the plan?
It's hard for me to decide because I love the 5K. The 10 this year was kind of bittersweet. I had a really, my kick at the U.S. Championships in the 10 was pretty subpar, especially compared to the field. And I kind of had a bitter taste in my mouth with track. And then the 5K happened, and I ended up 4th, which is usually the most bitter place because you're one spot out from making the team. But I was happy about it because I was like, oh, this is more maybe my off event, and I'm showing I can compete with some of the best guys in the country. And I shouldn't say I should say the best guys in the country. Only a few spots off making that World Championships. And so, it's hard to say. The 5K was great. I loved the marathon. The marathon was it was very different. So what'll probably end up happening is and this is kind of the plan my coach and I have set out, but we'll probably do the marathon Olympic trials, and then if I don't make the team with that, go back to the track, do the 5K and 10K at the Olympic trials. But that's kind of like, you want to make an Olympic team. So I'm going to go, the earliest I can to try and take a spot, and if whatever would have been the first event, that's what I would have gone for.
Yep. Then they're done that. I missed the team. Yeah, and I missed the team, in that 5K, and I came back and got it in the 15. So you always have to have options, Connor.
I agree. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Connor, thank you so much. We really appreciate you spending time with us, and we really appreciate your love of the sport and you're willing to give to the next generation. You're getting to be an old timer. You're not going to be able to hang out with those 18. You're going to hang out with Carrie and then get really old and hang out with us. So thanks, Connor. We really do appreciate it, my friend.
All right.
Thanks, Connor.
Thanks, Carrie.